That uh,
Hello and welcome to another week of the Petty Crew Radio Show. Listen, I'm your boy Boss Hogg, host of the Petty Crew Radio Show. And as usual, every week I have my beautiful co-host, the First Lady of Sports,
itching
my
today.
ride or die.
I
Huh?
think these braids are tight or something. I'm itching today.
Yeah. I have Miss Roz in the building. What's good, Roz?
Not much, a little scratchy. That's
Yes,
about
listen.
it.
Look, I still get a little compliments on mine, and I'm like, if you see the top of their head, it's time to get this thing redone again. Again, welcome everybody to another week of the Petty Crew Radio Show. Please, before we get this show started, please share our video. Go to our social media pages, like and share Facebook, the Petty Crew, Instagram, the Petty Crew, Twitter, the Petty Crew One. Please like and share today's show. We have a great show lined up for you guys. If you guys are not aware, Texas under Greg Abbott has signed law restricting transgender students in school sports. If you have been following the show for the past 4 years, we have been talking about this and following this whole transition in states as they uh, set laws for transgender girls. Not so much for transgender men, but transgender girls. And so, in the latest of the whole LGBT versus the world, again, we have Texas Governor Greg Abbott, who signed into law restricting transgender students in school sports. Also, we're going to be talking about Kevin Gates. If you guys don't know who Kevin Gates is, he is a, I guess, hip hop artist. He's a rapper, and he was on the podcast and he said some interesting comments that got the community talking. Kevin Gates says men shouldn't ejaculate during sex. That's interesting. I'm not. Maybe the title of this article is misleading, but I don't know how as a man you cannot make it do what it do during sex. So we're gonna jump into that. And lastly, we're gonna talk about the 82-year-old black woman who's seeking an end to probation from 1955. Let me say that again. You heard me correct. 82-year-old black woman seeks end to probation from 1955. Just a little backdrop on that, and we'll get into details. Before there was a Rosa Parks, there was this beautiful black woman. Again, we're going to be talking about 82-year-old black woman who's seeking an end to probation from 1955. So, with that being said, let's go on and jump into today's topics.
Gender identity. That's really the question. Gender identity. Of course, Texas, we're always in the news for something. And Paul Greg Abbott, he's always the leader of most of this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to pray for him first and foremost. Every time you say his name, just whisper a little prayer because this
Right.
may be going through it. So on Monday, and I'll read the story just a little bit. Texas is the latest state to prohibit transgender youth from playing on sports teams that aligns with their gender identity. Gender identity. I'm gonna say it again. Gender identity. Governor Greg Abbott signed House Bill 25 into law on Monday. It requires public school students. It requires public school students compete in interscholastic athletic competition based solely on their assigned sex at birth. Gender identity, sex at birth. Let's make sure we got those two things
Okay.
nailed in this. Gender identity, what you identify as on your birth certificate at birth. Because I think, my own personal opinion, we done came up with some extra pronouns around here.
Right.
So he's just taking it, if I dare say, old school, because
Mm-hmm.
now it seems like it's old school, back to birth. So the law states, oh, I'm sorry, I clicked on the wrong one. The law says that K through 12 students who participate in interscholastic competition can only play on teams in accordance with the sex listed on their official birth certificate, which is defined as the one issued at or near the time of their birth and may not correspond with their gender identity. It applies to all teens sponsored or authorized by a school district or open enrollment charter school and charges the university league, which governs athletic contests in the state's public primary and secondary schools with implementing the rules. It goes further into the UIL League. Now, that is, I think, where it's going to cause some problems, but we'll come back to that. It
Mm-hmm.
goes further than existing UIL rules, which require students participating in high school sports to do so in accordance with the sex listed on their birth certificates, but accepts amended birth certificates. I want to stop right there because I feel like
Okay.
that's enough for anything. So let's go back to the beginning. Gender identity, how you was identified at birth. If your parents checked female, that means you can only play in female sports. If
Mm-hmm.
your family checked male, you can only play in male sports. Do we have that? I know
Okay.
it probably sounds like I'm talking to y'all on the slow bus, but now we have all this other stuff, and we
Right.
have to make sure that we are clear at birth, not how you feel now, not that you feel like you should be something else, but what was checked when the doctor pulled you out, held you up feet first,
Mm-hmm.
smacked you on your bottoms, and says, "Congratulations, it's a boy," or "Congratulations, it's a girl." Do we got that straight?
Right. Excuse me. Right.
Bless you. And
Thank
I'm
you.
only saying that because now we have a community that is fighting to participate in sports of how they identify now. Okay.
Right.
So let's go back to the beginning. How you can only play in the sports as you identify at the time of birth. It is law now. Why do we have to sign it into law? For lack of a better word, people are cheating the system. That's about as plain as I can get it. You had some males that were transitioning or are now identifying themselves as women playing in women's sports, and they were dominating the sports, which made it unfair for the women who they were competing against. So
Mm-hmm.
now we have to have a law that states they can no longer do that to keep everything fair. And I keep my personal opinions to that. I don't want to be counseled. I sure ain't even that big enough to be on a platform.
Listen. Right.
So
Stop.
don't counsel us. We've been low key for a little bit. Please don't counsel us.
Um. You
Please,
know.
please. We ain't David Chappelle. We don't want to have no sit down or nothing like that. We
Listen. You
just want
can't.
to.
Who you gonna boycott? Who you gonna tell? I'm sorry. That's the beauty of
We
when
don't
we
have
have
no employees.
our own shit. I mean, because the only person you go be able to complain to is us, and ain't
Right.
nobody gonna sit us down to hold a conversation. So again,
That's
thank
what I
you for
said.
tuning in.
Don't
Uh,
cancel. Don't cancel us.
listen,
Uh,
I'm gonna give my personal. Hold on, Rise. Damn that, man. We've been doing this shit for four
I
years,
just
going on
I
5 years.
don't want to. I don't want to be counseled. Just cancel culture is
What
something
we
else.
not gonna do, what we not gonna do is hold our tongue. We've been following this for 4 years. So again, for you guys who are tuning in, right now we're talking about Greg Abbott, who just signed House Bill 25 into law. And what that bill is that now transgender girls have to play sports in the in how would you put it? um, with the gender in which they were when they were born. In other words, young men who were at birth male by birth certificate now have to participate with boys in high school or basically all school in the state of Texas. So
Except for
again,
UIL.
well,
UIL has that amendment that says if your birth certificate has been amended, which I don't
oh,
agree with,
and
but
also, but we also got to add to that though is if you've also transitioned, meaning that you've had that sex change, you can do so. So again, for you guys that are watching, we want to know what you guys think about Greg Abbott and him now signing House Bill into law, House Bill 25 into law again, requiring transgender girls, aka young men from elementary school to high school, to participate as boys. That's all that this bill is basically saying. And as Roz was stating, that we do have those who are cheering um, this bill, and then you have those who are in who are skeptical of this
disagreement.
bill. Yeah,
Right.
who are in disagreement.
But
So
my
let me
thing
give my personal opinion. Hold on, Rod. Let me go on and get my personal opinion out the way because I've been waiting to talk about this. I don't mind admitting certain things. I am not a Republican by no stretch of the imagination. However, I do agree with this bill. I'm gonna leave it right there. What you was gonna say, Rise? Talk to me.
yeah, I agree with it too. I just don't understand why we have to have it. And that's one of those things is that now we're conforming to a whole community of people in their agenda. If you are if you're a male, then you compete with the men. If you're a female, I don't see why this has to be a law. I mean, before what's next? Is there going to be
Well,
a law about the bathrooms? Is there going to be a law about this? If you were born male on your birth certificate, it should be understood, not how you feel,
right,
but what you were born as. You need to go compete with the boys. And I'm not trying to be harsh or anything like that. If my child came to me and said she wanted to if I had a boy and he decided a male and he decided he wanted to become a female, I support him 100%. We can go shopping, get your nails done, get your hair done. You'll be the baddest transgender, but don't go out there trying to take something from somebody else that's unfair.
right.
That's the problem that I have with this. And the young man that we've been following forever for the
Mm-hmm.
past 4 years, he played in male sports to where he wasn't dominating
Right,
at all. He didn't win anything. He wasn't recognized. He came in almost last in a majority of his races.
right,
Then he decided he wanted to be a female or whatever, got the feeling it was on the inside, whatever term we want to use. He's female. Now he's competing with female and he's winning everything because he's still structured as a man.
right,
His shoulder width, his waistline, flatness of his chest, the testosterone that's in his body. It is not equivalent to a woman, so it's unfair.
right,
And I know some parents out there, they just want their baby to compete, and I get it. I understand that. But once you make the decision that this is what you're going to be, then you have to respect the decisions of everybody else the same way you want them to respect yours.
right. And I definitely agree. And with that being said, the sponsor of this bill, Rep. Valerie Swanson, Rep. out of Spring, Texas, says that I'm excited that we have an opportunity today to stand for our daughters, granddaughters, and all our Texas girls. There are more than 800,000 7th through 12th grade athletes in public schools in Texas, including more than 300,000 girls. Swanson says if transgender girls are allowed to compete with girls, they would have a competitive advantage. It also makes it where they have absolutely no opportunity. They know that it's already set. The results are already set before they even start. And again, I am not a Republican by no stretch of imagination, but I do agree with this bill. It is very rare you go see me agree with anything that Greg Abbott passed. However, again, it goes back to like you were saying, Roz, is that it is still a unfair advantage. And then we're going to get to the opposite side, those who don't agree with it as well. I agree with it because one, not because I have daughters, Because again, I know if I throw on a wig, put some nails on, put some lipstick on, try to change my voice and dress like some girl, I am still a man. And I do not understand where even as young men somehow convince themselves that now I am really a woman. There's nothing about you other than the outer appearance of you that's feminine about you. You can't make yourself feel like a woman. You can think whatever you want in your head. Hell, if that's the case, I need to think about being a millionaire every day. How about that?
Every day. Every day I think about being a millionaire. Let me
Right.
go ahead and put that out there.
Yeah,
Now,
I'm a millionaire every day. Then I don't want to be a woman. I'm a millionaire every day, and I guess maybe that's what we'll start doing because, like you said, what's going to be next? And Roz, hell, to your answer, we already have. Um, I think in North Carolina they had to fight about the whole bathroom issue. You see what I'm
right.
saying?
Oh,
And
and that's
who
a
can
whole
use the
nother.
bathroom and who can't. And so again, it is just making sure that even as a transgender, because what we're getting to with this whole situation and this whole LGBT community shit is that now they're trying to make themselves a whole new gender. In other words, there is male, female, and then we are somehow something other than those. But the truth is, regardless of what you think you are still a male and you're still a female. We don't have this issue with women. Why? And we're talking about transgender boys. Those are the girls who want to become men. You don't see them trying to participate in with the boys in track because they already know they're gonna lose.
Right.
You
And
see what I'm
and I
saying?
think that's part of it because um like it was saying on the in the story about the representatives from the LGBT community saying that pretty much that now these kids are coming out and they're already being looked at from different angles and not being
Mhm.
supportive from their peers and and their teachers, and now we have this that's further pushing them back. Well, no, because what about the young women that are already in these sports
Right.
that has been training since you know they were what was literally 4 or 5
Mm-hmm.
track, and they went to special school and they got special coaches, and now they want to come in and take that over. What about those girls?
Right.
That this has been theirs. He's coming in winning just because he's physically dominant. And
Right.
if you look at the signs, it says that men are 12 to 15% at more of an advantage than women.
Mm-hmm.
We don't want to put all women in a little basket and say they're sweet and they can't compete against men. I'm sure I know one or two that may be able to, but it's
Right.
not a majority number, right? It's
Right.
not you put 30 men against 30 females that 29 of the 30 females are going to win against the men. No,
Yeah, it
maybe
ain't
one
gonna work
or
like that.
two. Right.
Right.
It's one or two. It's just how we're designed. And there's nothing wrong with that. It's how we're designed. It's how we're made. Just like David Chappelle said in his special Sticks and Stones. If everybody is equal physically, then why is there a WNBA? Why is
Yep.
it split? Why is it just not NBA? In every other sport, why is it divided? Because there is a sure advantage from men and women. The fastest woman to ever run still has not beat the fastest man
Right.
or come close.
Mojo.
Right. And this is the fastest woman that has ever ran. And this is before Hussein Bolt. We don't know what he do. I mean, we say he walk on water. We have no idea what's going on in his body. We
Right.
don't know. But she still haven't even come to the second fastest or the third fastest. So you have to look at this whole thing as a whole. We're not trying to single anybody kids out. We're not trying to say, hey, baby, you can't compete. We're just saying on this particular day, you just gonna have to compete with the men.
Right.
I mean, that's all we're saying. Let's be fair, let's be honest, and let's be open about this all the way around. You can't just come in and take over somebody else's sport And I'm not going to say they did it because they're not good on the other side. This is maybe how you feel. I don't know. I haven't talked to you personally. But you have to look at the consequences of your actions too. You decided this for yourself. So if that means you can't do something that you love, as in sports, you're
And watch this. I'm listening to you, Roz, but it kind of feels like bullying. Let me into this sport. I am a transgender girl. Let me into this sport. You
you
know,
know what? That's a
let
good
me.
thing.
I mean, because that's what it is. See me. I cannot be seen if I'm running with the boys. Regardless of how I look on the outside, with the weave in my head and the nails, I'm still not going to be that person because now I know I can't compete with the boys. And so, again, we don't want people to think that we are somehow bashing transgender. What we're not is what we're talking about being equal and fair, regardless of who you are. And then, as it also says, because we do have uh, people who don't like the fact that this bill was passed. And let's start talking about one of them. The Trevor Project said it received nearly 4,000 crisis contacts from transgender and non-binary youth Texas this year. Leslie McMurray, a transgender woman who advocates for others at the Dallas Resource Center, is among those watching debate over the bill about public school athletes. This legislature has been all about attacking children. I don't understand it. I think it's reprehensible. If you have a girl who's respected as a girl, treated as a girl in all of her classrooms and by her friends, in every other way until she steps on the playing field when suddenly she's treated like a boy. That's not right. And I got to stop right there. First of all, that's bias. You're
Right.
not even speaking of a place of, again, being fair up and down. I say it all the time, and I think I said it on the last show. One of the main reasons outside of racism that people can't get on, because this is a Caucasian person, a lot of times why people can't get on juries because they don't know how to see things straight down the middle. Remove your bias, remove your personal feeling, because you're not speaking of a face of logic. Because your logic is, as well, he's being treated like a girl in the class, he's being treated like a girl in life. But now when he comes to sports, well, because guess what? In the classroom, you are actually equal. If your ass study, you'll pass.
Right. It's totally different. It's totally different things. I mean, but
In
it's just like
intelligence,
a kid that has ADHD or autism. They don't learn the same. So
right.
yeah, in general class, what's that where they transpose their numbers and letters,
Dyslexia.
dyslexia. They have regular class for kids that are dyslexic, right? But when it's
Mhm.
time to take a test, because they know that they switch their numbers and sometimes their words, they pull them out so they can get special attention. It's no different. In
Right.
the classroom, hey, you're a female girl, boo, whatever your name is. But once we get out on that field, ma'am, you're going to have to be over here
Right. And
because
like
this
I
is
said,
right.
that's what this person is missing. That intellect doesn't have a gender. We all have a level of intellect in which, if we study, if we, you know what I'm saying. Some people again learn different, but when you're talking about things that require physical activity, that
Right. It's
playing field is not equal. Again, why are you then not arguing for men and women to just have sports together? Like you mentioned earlier, why not just say, you know what? That's 86. Why not have co-ed everything? Forget co-ed college basketball, because you know what? The truth is, a lot of men and women don't want to see. They just want to see girls play basketball. Not
right.
that they got a problem. They it's a problem to them that is separated. Some people just want to see nothing but girls play sports. Seeing women compete against each other. That's another reason why they're not together. They want to see How can you ever have a WNBA champion if y'all got co-ed basketball? How would that look? That would be so awkward. You know how many people would get no, just think about this. You know how many opportunities will be lost if they just had one league?
Right.
If the percentage of going to the league is already small, just think how small of a percentage for a male and female competing against each other to be drafted.
Right.
Come on now. I
But I
mean,
mean, we can beat this dead horse until it's in the ground,
right,
and we got some meat. But it's just not. The bottom line is, if you look at the science, if you look at the structure, if you look at what is right, genuinely what is right, them competing against women that were born as women, has the body makeup as a woman, that is physically shaped as a woman, he has or she has, or the trans has a higher percentage of advantage.
right.
And pretty much that's just the bottom line.
Yeah.
I'm sorry that this is the hand that you were dealt. You decided this life. I don't know. Maybe in the future, maybe they'll have a transgender league. I I, I think I think that's perfect. Let's have a transgender league, and
And like
that
I
way
said,
you
you mentioned that.
compete against the people that are in your lane, so to
Mm-hmm.
speak, and
Right.
it's equal and it's fair. I support that 100%. You may be able to do great things. It could be a transgender Olympics one day. I support that 100%. I don't support, as you say, the underlying bullying in
Right.
this situation, because that is a good word to use for this. Make them put me in this sport, and
Mm-hmm.
that's not fair. So
Right.
that's why I leave it.
Yeah. And like again, we are not against the LGBT community, but what we are for is just fairness. And sometimes you just have to call it for what it is. Again, take your emotions out of it, take your feelings out of it, and look at it from a logical perspective. Look at it and with some, I can't say common sense because everybody don't have it, but look at it without the emotional part of it. You can't be biased in this situation. Everybody knows, any scientist can tell you that men are more physically what's the word for it?
Dominant.
Yeah, more physically dominant than women. With that being said, man, again, please let us know your thoughts. How do you feel about Bill, again, House Bill 25, which was passed by Greg Abbott, um, making sure that transgender girls now have to participate in sports as boys. They are still recognized as transgender girls. However, their law states that you have to participate in sports according to what you were at the time of birth and what was put on your birth certificate. So again, if you was a boy, in this case, you have to participate with the boys.
Every
Greg said
time I hear
nothing
you
from
say that, I think about Friday. I'm a boy, Dave. And
I mean, because again,
that's the
hey,
only reference I know.
listen, Money Mike had to make it clear because old boy just said, "I'm gonna take it. It is what it is. You with this long perm hair, I don't see you."
That's the only quote I know from that movie. So horrible.
Watch
Speaking
this.
speaking of holding out,
Yeah, speaking of holding out, which is a great segue. Thank you, Ron, for that. Listen, we gotta talk about Kevin Gates. For you guys who are not aware, Kevin Gates over this past week had he was on a podcast, and let me get the name of it. Um, the name of that podcast is during the interview on the Gilly the Kid and Wallow's $1 million worth of game podcast. Kevin Gates made some controversial questioning statements regarding withholding ejaculation during sex. It's so funny we having this conversation because we rarely mention sex like that. But again,
I don't even think I should be a part of it. This is a man come. Hey, can we get some men that's listening to comment so Steve can have somebody to talk to?
yeah, listen. Kevin Gates says Another thing I was telling you that that's really healing to your body, and it's going to sound crazy, but it's semen retention, not releasing no semen. He said. Let me say that again. If you didn't know or never heard of that word before, he's talking about semen retention. He goes on to say, Gates clarified that men should still have sex, but they shouldn't ejaculate. Your intention should be to please your partner, he explained, and don't release no semen. Let me say that again. He's saying you should abstain from ejaculating because your main goal is to please your significant other, whoever you are having this sexual encounter with. Then it goes on to say that the Stranger Than Fiction artist added that not ejaculating will help heal the central nervous system and heal your brain. For Kevin, it's all about pleasing his partner in the bedroom. The 35-year-old rapper who went platinum earlier this year with his record Me Too revealed that he engages in a lot of foreplay and enjoys pleasing or pleasuring a woman's G-spot. The article goes on to say, when I say foreplay, I mean everything, he stated. Don't even tell me where your spot is. I'ma find it. I'm to please my partner, whatever partner I'm dealing with at the time. First of all, let me just say to Double XL, damn, you didn't have to type how he was speaking in your damn article, okay? You could have corrected his damn speech because literally you put it in your article the same way he said the shit, and it sounds crazy. But again, Kevin Gates is saying men should practice semen retention / your goal should be to please your significant other. Now, on this show, we might joke a lot and we, talk a lot of shit. But what we do here is research.
Right.
And immediately when I read this article, I had to Google, because you just don't keep semen retention books around.
Right. Right.
I
That's what
literally had to Google what in the hell semen retention. With that being said, I'll say this and then I'm going to turn over to Roz as I pick up when I pull up this information that I have in my phone about what semen retention. I'm going to say this. That article has two different things going on. Again, that's why it's good to read and then research, and then you'll find out real quick that what he's talking about really does not align up with what semen retention practice really is. He's talking about semen retention, and it has healing properties, which have not been proven. Some say yes, it does things to you. Some say it don't. And again, as we talk about this, I will get into those different things when it comes to semen retention. Then again, we're going to put a period right there. Then he's saying you should not try to ejaculate because your goal should be to please your significant other. Again, that is his point of view. You can't tell me about what my goal should be. How about it's me and my significant others right to have that conversation, and then we decide on how we engage in sexual intercourse. So with that being said, I'm gonna turn it over to Roz and talk to me because I mean you don't really have to be a male to hold this conversation.
Well, I went to WebMD just to get the definition, see what it is, how you do it, and of course there's pros and cons to everything that happened. This is not anything that's new. It's just really being widely discussed now because people are more free talking about sex or anything that has to do with that. It's just not a closed door conversation anymore. But what I did find out is that it's known as a couple of things: seminal conservation, sexual contentants. So you're just holding on to it. And it even says that you can have an orgasm without ejaculating. You just have to learn how to do it, how to retain it. Now, the positive things on here is um, deeper relationships, a stronger life force, better overall happiness. Um, I don't know how, but we'll just. I'm not a doctor. I can only tell you what they said. More confidence and self control. I can see that. I don't know how it happens, but of course I'm gonna have to try to find me a video on it. Um,
Look at you.
it's less anxiety and depression, increased motivation, better memory, concentration, and overall cognitive function, physical, greater vitality, increased muscle growth, thicker hair, deeper voice, improved sperm quality, spiritual, deeper relationships, and better overall happiness. I would think that all that stuff would come if you released it.
Watch.
Because
Hold on, Roz. First of all, you haven't told the people what is the definition, and this is why I says there's a contradiction. What he's speaking of is not. He has two different conversations going on. One thing I
okay,
think he's not trying to
so
listen to.
So on Helpline, it says, what is semen retention? Semen retention is the practice of avoiding ejaculation.
Okay,
You can
stop.
use
Say that again.
avoiding ejaculation.
So that's the number one. So semen retention, because I'm reading I'm looking at my little notes and I'm seeing making sure you that because that should be the number one thing. Semen retention is abstaining from sexual activities altogether.
Right.
So we can't get into the results and the benefits if you're in the middle of playing sex. So this is what I tell people about trying to listen to people. Listening to, how can I put this? Fuck it. Trying to listen to people like him. And again, it ain't like he was on a show, intellectual show. That show is for, I hate to say it, no, I don't. That show is for the folks who are into Kevin Gates, his music. They're not going to take time after probably research what the hell he's talking about. They're going to look at it and listen to him and think it's loud. We know how they go. Pop culture, those super fans and people, that lane of people that watch that show. Semen retention is the practice of abstaining from sexual activities altogether. As a man, when you are engaging in sexual intercourse with a woman, it is natural for you to release fluids because you are excited. When you're a kid, they call that stuff, because we're having a sexual conversation, they call that pre-cum, right? It's a clear liquid that can get a young lady pregnant. I don't know how I got pregnant because y'all was playing around before you did what you were supposed to do. There's absolutely no way as a man you're in middle of foreplay, as he says. And as a man, unless you're not attracted to that woman, not to be aroused. Again, that's coming from, I can't speak for women, but I'm telling you as a man, there's absolutely no way. Now, you can sit up here and not ejaculate because they have a word for that, but that's not called semen retention though. Because you can, in other words, it's the practice of learning how to control when you have an orgasm.
Right. Yeah.
Because you can practice that control. Another word for that is what they call edging, where you get to the point of sexual, gratification, orgasm, but you're learning how to control that. And so again, what Kevin Gates is doing is mashing up some shit he done read, and then trying to regurgitate it and say, well, no, you can practice semen retention, but at the same time, you can still mess with your girl. It's impossible. It is.
Well,
Listen
he
to me.
didn't keep on going. That's all there was. He didn't keep on going.
Well, he clarified himself by saying, I guess again, when you can tell when people reading shit, it's almost like the equivalent of a new Christian, right? Versus the old head Christian who's seasoned and not in a rush because they've lived it a little longer. You can tell the new Christian because now they're trying to run and I gotta be super holy and I gotta do all this and this and that. Oh, listen, my mind is stayed on Jesus all the time. I woke up and it was stayed on. The ones that are extra, you can tell a new Christian. Because they're so in a rush and they think that they got to change everything. And, oh, I am so holy. No, I do not sin anymore. Jesus himself touched me when I said I accepted him. So I'm never going to do nothing wrong. Y'all know what I'm talking about. You can
They
smile.
answer the phone. They answer the phone. Bless you. Bless you.
Yes,
Bless
thank
you.
you, Jesus. They done changed their whole voicemail. Jeremiah 29:11 says, for God so loved the world. And thank you, Jesus, for calling me right now. I hate I didn't get to you. Y'all know them new Christians. I can tell this brother, as he's calling himself trying to evolve, is learning at the same time because what he
Right.
said and how he said it is really not coherent. Again, if you studied anything and you've been around long enough, again, you can read that article and do some research and realize, oh, he's talking about two different things. You get what I'm saying? And he's just mashing it up, all together. And again, we got to make fun of this shit where we also want to educate because, again, as Rod said, there are some health benefits. Now, watch this because, again, we like to do our fact checking. It says, is there any research to support this? It's complicated, multifaceted topic, and research is lacking. Not having enough research doesn't mean all claims are false, though, which is true. Roz mentioned you would think that also help you. Actually, in marriage, it does. Couples live longer who have a healthy sexual relationship. Sex actually burn more calories than walking. I mean, those are proven statements regarding sexual encounters. And everything that was mentioned was
Right.
talking about how do you release stress? Guess what you should do? Have sex. Sex is a stress reliever. I'm not talking some shit because I'm a man. That's actual fact. That's one way you can actually
Right.
relieve stress. So the same way where he's talking about semen retention, aka basically practicing the art of what he's talking about is practicing the art of learning how to control your ejaculation. That's what he should have said. He shouldn't have really mentioned semen retention because, again, the definition of semen retention is abstaining from sexual intercourse altogether. My mother said something close to that, and Roz, I'm going to turn it over to you. My mother told me something back in high school a long time ago. Now, she never called it semen retention, but what she did say was, son, if you can control sex, aka the whole purpose of having sex is to do what? Have an orgasm. You just ain't playing to just be playing. If you can control sex, you can control your life. You can control everything else in your life. And my mama told us this shit early. If you can control, and that's basically kind of sort of what Kevin Gates is kind of hitting at. He's just narrowing it down to the act in the bed. You get what I'm saying? Rod, talk to me.
I don't know what Kevin is doing. I, I have no idea what he's doing. Because like you said, after we went in and put up some articles and start looking at the definitions and how you do it, I think because when he said that he tried to please his partner in every way first, whatever partner he's with, I think he's meaning that not I don't want to say not trying to ejaculate, but putting off his until she get hers. And I don't know the correct term for that in the sexual manual,
Mm-hmm.
but I get what he's trying to say. I just hate he put it in that particular package.
Right.
He's saying that he wants to please her first. He don't want to cut it short with pleasing himself. He's trying to do that first. So I don't think it's the holding back from ejaculating. I just think he wants to put as much time and effort into making her his main focus than anything else.
Mm-hmm.
He just used the wrong words. We get it. He read it somewhere. He retained it as retention. It just didn't come out the way it came out contradictory in his interview. But I get the gist that he was saying. He just used the wrong words.
Right. Yeah, and again, sadly, people are not going to take the time out to go actually research what he's talking about. Again, on this show, we might joke a lot and talk a lot of shit, but what we go do is make sure we know what the hell we talk about before we come to you and hold these conversations. Again, are there health benefits to it? That will be based on the people that feel that there are health benefits to it. Is it for everybody? Hell, again, that is your personal deal. I can tell you right now, Boss Hog ain't doing none of that shit. It ain't gonna happen. I can control my sexual appetite, but what I'm not gonna do is I don't want to get into a situation. It's just not gonna happen. I'm sorry.
Well, and that's part of the reason why I can only speak on the facts of it, because I don't we've heard stories as girls that y'all can get blue balls if you hold too much in, and so is it a good thing or a bad thing?
Well, I mean, again, I understand what he's trying to relay. That's me. No, you can't get blue balls. I don't, that's some other made up shit. But what I'm saying is
old wives' tale.
Because now watch this. I do know women. I know women who abstain from sex and can do it for long periods of time. A year, 2 years. Again, it goes back to discipline.
But we don't have no balls though that can turn blue.
Right. Well, I ain't either. You know what I'm saying? I mean, let's go and set this record straight. Just because we men, everybody ain't knocking somebody down every damn day. We still struggle too. It ain't like we can walk out the door and there it is right there. You get what I'm saying? So
you can't roll no dice.
Yeah. Oh, got somebody today. Oh no, it just don't work like that. And so, again, man, I just think it's one of those situations where I already look at this brother sideways anyways. I think I said that on the show before. A dude who has spent a significant amount of time behind bars is suspect to me anyway. So their conversation when it comes to sex, I don't really believe, and I've said this, and it is what it is. And I want all the smoke. I'm not a fake gangster. It ain't kind of how that works. So I can say what I want to say. I think I said that before. That's just how I feel about him and other guys like him who are trying to hold sexual conversation, because the truth is that they're really not being as honest as they come off. It sound hard now. Yeah, listen, I'm out here trying to please my girl. And in the article, he says it, and he was very confident about it, if I'm not lying. I want to get to the G spot. First of all, see, I know as a man, I'm totally different. If you ain't communicating with me, I work hard every day. I'm not finna jump in the bedroom and then got a whole job ahead of me, too. That is just me, so I know this nigga lying. Oh, I'm just, and let me work out and find it, and I'm gonna tell you who Kevin Gates sound like, and then I want you to talk about this next story because you are a woman, so I want you to introduce this. Kevin Gates sound like the dude who fishing for some broads. Now, I know he got a chick. I get it. But when I hear that stuff, it's like, are you trying to cater to women? Because you ain't got to tell me I'm going to touch every inch of your body and I'm going to try to figure it all out because I got time. I don't get tired. Didn't he say that on the song? And then me, I got a crazy ass mind. I'm like, you don't get tired because you was locked up. I mean, you had time to work. So come on. Listen, don't play with me. I'm a former correction officer. You can't tell me shit. Like I said, every brother that's locked up does not get the pleasure of putting a young lady behind bars. In other words, AKA sleeping with correctional officers. So yeah. With that being said, man, we're gonna get to our next article. Because
Great
again,
segue.
I mean, because I can go in on Kevin because again, it's just laughable. I just
Yeah,
hate.
leave Kevin alone. Great segue. So we covered with Kevin holding back, not moving, and corrections. So
Nigga said, "Oh,
this story can
hey,
lead
that boy said
straight
I'm
into
pulling a
it.
chastity belt." I ain't even.
This story can lead straight into it. It's
Yeah.
easy. 82-year-old black woman seeks to end probation from 1955 when she
Mm,
refused to move on the bus. Be an 82-year-old black woman seeks into probation from 1955 when she refused to move on the bus. This article comes from Newsweek. And it says, before Rosa Parks, there was Claudette Colvin, a black teenager convicted of assaulting a police officer after she refused to give up her seat on a segregated bus in 1955 in Alabama. Now, the 82-year-old Colvin is asking the court to officially terminate her probation and expunge her record. Colvin says she has never received notice that she finished her probation, and it has followed her whole life. As a 15-year-old high school student on March 2nd, 1955, Colvin and her black girl and another black girl were sitting too close to two white girls, and Colvin refused to move when asked to move to the back of the bus. Her refusal prompted the bus driver to call the police. When police officers arrived, removed Colvin from the bus. She was kicking and scratching the officer, the police report said, leading to an assault charge. We'll put a pin in that. The case was
mhm.
sent to juvenile court, and a judge found her delinquent, so they placed her on probation pending good behavior. It ended there. Colvin never hearing another word about it, she said. 55 years later, Colvin and her lawyer, Philip Ensler, are requesting expungement from the Montgomery County system. My conviction for standing up for my constitutional right terrorized my family and relatives who knew only that they were not to talk about my arrest and conviction because of the people in town knew me as the girl from the bus, Colvin said. Although Colvin moved out of state, relatives was worried what may happen when she returned for visits since no court official ever said she had finished her probation. Her family has lived with this tremendous fear ever since then, adding that even Colvin had told her story many times, nothing was ever done to clear her record. The Associated Press attempted to reach out to the chief court clerk in Montgomery Court, but said it did not hear back. However, the Associated Press reported that Montgomery's um, County's chief prosecutor said he agreed with the request to clear Colvin's record, removing doubt that it would be approved. 55 years she's
Mm.
been walking around with this. And we only hear stories about Rosa Parks, and not to take anything away from her, but her name only got synonymous because she was connected to the NAACP and they were setting their agenda. So we already know what that's about. But we have this 15-year-old girl who was sitting too close to two white girls on a bus. She was asked to move. And when the police officers tried to remove her, she put up a fight, which got her an assault charge, right?
Mm.
55 years later, she have no idea if she's still on probation, if she was ever put on probation, and this has haunted her whole life. She ended up, as the story goes, she ended up moving to Texas with some family members because her family there was scared that she may be picked up just because, and she was on probation and she can be sent to jail. So she moved to Texas to live out her life and haven't had anything else on her record since that time. Can you imagine that? being 15 and you don't know if you can go back and visit your relatives, and if you do, you have to stay in the house because you're known as that girl from the bus. You're on probation, 55 years. Some type of notification should have been sent out. It didn't say that, her family had moved from the house or anything like that, but 55 years. And she goes on to say, I'm an old woman now. Having my record expunged would mean something to my children and great grandchildren. And it would mean something for other Black children, Colvin said in the sworn statement. I can't imagine living with that for 55 years.
I got questions. I got a ton of questions.
For her, for the court, for who are you questioning?
Shit, everybody. I would say this, and maybe it's just me. I used to hear people say, Rosa Parks wasn't the first,
Right.
and you probably heard it, and people probably heard it, and not realize until now who that they were talking about. They were talking about her. There's so much going on this, and we're just focused on the probation. But if we got a little bit deeper, we can talk about the fact that why did she never become the face?
Because she wasn't attached.
She was.
Well, she wasn't attached to the NAACP because they was making the agenda and they could control that narrative. So that's why she wasn't attached. Rosa Parks wasn't the first. She was just the name, and she was attached to this so they can set the agenda. It was like the pre-fight, what is that before the fights come on, the lower tickets, how they go out and punch and all this, and then you get the main event where Rosa was the lower fight. They had a main event that they wanted to uncover or to set forth, and Rosa Parks was it. We know she wasn't the first. It was other people even besides Miss Colvin that was put off the bus. It was other people. It's just that they're named in whole recognition. There we go.
Right. She was, and also we gotta add this because this is true too. She was light skinned. You gotta remember back then, that mattered. Here we have, if you ever seen a picture of this woman, she is a dark skinned. So just imagine in 1955, she was a dark skinned teenager. Then you have older Rosa Parks, who was a part of the whole civil rights thing with Martin and all of that. And so it was like, okay, do we really want to make this brown, dark skinned? Because again, amongst us, we got to be clear, since we talking history, we got to be clear that everybody that's cheering for Malcolm now, I mean Martin now, who black, like Martin's daughter said, they weren't cheering for him back then. You also have to understand it was no different when it came to this little girl who was a dark little girl compared to Rosa Parks, who was an older, light-skinned woman.
Right, because she was in a town.
Right, because all this shit happened in Alabama. I mean, so it was all there. My next question would be, why you wait so long? Because my thing is, after 10 years, after 15, I got questions. You see what I'm saying? I mean, you weren't so fearful that you left and went to another state. Now, I'm not knocking this young lady. I'm just asking questions because, again, this is a tragic situation. This is the epitome of white supremacy. So let me make sure we clear about that. I know that. But what I'm saying is I got 50 million questions to ask that I would like answers to. I get that she was scared, but she left. Normally, technically under probation, you can't leave the state you're in probation in. First of all, you got to get permission. You follow what I'm saying? So even in that probation, at some point, because see, I would have been on probation. See, I'm scared to move. You follow what I'm saying?
Right.
Let me ask somebody, can I move before I up and move into another state? Because in real life now, on probation, you go and move somewhere else, and you didn't get approval, they will go arrest your ass wherever you are. That's just kind of how they go. And
I
so,
mean, but what was the law like that back then? Like, and then was it
uh
um because it's just like she said, she didn't get any paperwork. Um, because normally when they put you on probation, they tell you for how long, right?
right? Well,
I've never been put on probation, but I've heard like you get a letter telling you how long you've been put on probation, you know, your revisions, I mean your restrictions of what you can and cannot do. She said she didn't have any of this. That's why she said she didn't know if she's still
something,
on it
well, the thing
or
is, something was on the books because you still left out of court understanding that you was on probation. Now,
right.
now, now she might not have had to check in because clearly it was on the books. You follow what I'm saying? It's on the books. Otherwise, this is really not a conversation. Somewhere there was some legal solidification of her probation. You follow what I'm saying?
Right, yeah.
I'm just saying, why? What was the 55-year wait for? Because after 15, 20 years, even in Texas, I'm sending a letter to the state. You get what I'm saying? Hey, this is the situation. I've been on probation. It's been 20 years. I haven't heard anything. What's going on? We're talking about damn near 60 years. This woman damn near her life. Secondly, obviously didn't prohibit her from getting a job.
But
So
once again, this is 1955. Do records transfer like they do now? You know,
she's
now
still
you can
living
put
that
in
Ron.
you can put in your your driver's license, Social Security, and it can pull up your whole life. Was it like that back then? I don't know.
I
I
don't
think they
know
just
either.
had paper, and unless you call down there to see was anything going on, it was probably nothing in the books that they can check.
But watch this,
And that's
Ron.
why I say with the whole, because I'm sure once you get put on probation, they kind of told you like you're on probation for 5 years. I mean, they just don't say you're on probation and then you walk out the jail and you're like, so is somebody gonna tell me when I'm not on probation or
But I can see it happening though, Roz. I mean, you got to remember we still talking about segregated Alabama. Go on and get
yeah,
out
I
here,
guess
girl.
that is true.
You get what I'm saying? Go on and get out here,
Yeah.
girl. You on probation, and again, we know it's documented. So they probably never said nothing to her about if she had to report, if she had to pay fines. Again, we're talking about 1955.
Right.
But at some point, again, because this woman is 85 and still been living, we've been in the technology age since the 80s. And so at some point, what I'm saying is I'm assuming you had various jobs where a background check had to be run. You follow what I'm saying?
But yeah, I mean, but most of these courthouses, even with Texas, you go from paper to electronic, and some of that stuff might not even got transferred over. It's probably in a box in a basement, or in the basement that flooded, and now all that stuff is washed away. Like you have no idea, and it doesn't say what she does now or what she did for a living. It just says that she wanted expunged for her grandchildren, her great grandchildren, and then just for herself to have a peace of mind that now at 82, she doesn't have a record anymore. But I mean, I get your question about why didn't you do it sooner? Why didn't you do it in your 30s,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because this would have been 15 years. You shouldn't have been on probation that long. Why didn't you check back even in your 40s to say, hey, let me, you know what? When I go back down here, let me look this up. Enough time has passed. Surely I'm not on probation for 20 years for this minor for scratching this police officer. So when I'm down here, let me check on it. Why did she wait 55 years or 50 something, odd years, 57 years to see if she's still on probation or to try to get it expunged or something like that? I don't think it's some type of agenda. I just think that maybe she just went on with life and forgot. And then
Mm-hmm.
here recently, it sparked something and she started thinking about it. And then, just how life is, you think about it, then the next minute something happens, so you just put it to the back. You think about it, something happens, put it to the back. Think about it, something happens, put it to the back. And then she went to this because the picture that they have on her thing is from when she was speaking on segregation back in the 1950s. So maybe that triggered something and said, you know what? Now would be a good time for me to put out about this probation thing.
Right.
Hey, can y'all check on, me? Hey, while y'all doing this, can we also check on this? Because back when I was 15, I got put on probation and I don't know if I'm off. Let's check on that. Well, that's a story, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because if they asked me, I'll probably tell you I had all the paperwork and I was going to call them, and then my phone rung or the doorbell rung or some good came on TV and I forgot about it until I pulled the paper back up. Now I'm thinking about it again. Let me do something about it. It could be a hundred of things. It didn't go into why she's just now doing it
Right.
or what's the thing behind it. So we'll just chalk it up to old age.
Yeah,
Because it's
and
pretty
I'm
much
not, and
all.
again, I'm not knocking it at all. I mean, it's a sad, it's sad and tragic that here it is. She's had this probation or this legal issue weighing on her all these years. And so again, thankfully, through obtaining an attorney, they now have got it resolved. But
Yeah.
again, it goes back to like I said, we are still in the land of a country that's practiced white supremacy. And as I tell people all the time, it's just not the mere idea that I don't like somebody black. It's a little bit deeper than that. That's surface. That's you know, people don't like people all the time. It's a little bit deeper than that. Uh, white supremacy, white supremacy is in the laws and the biases that affect us predominantly, where we are unable to do certain things. It's just deep. It's deeper than that. So again, thankfully she did have this taken care of. With that being said, man, we came to the end of our show again. Thank you guys for tuning in. Shout out to everybody who support us. Again, please make sure you go to all our social media pages: Facebook, The Petty Crew; Instagram, The Petty Crew; Twitter, The Petty Crew One. Again, also YouTube. Please make sure you go to our YouTube page, The Petty Crew. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. For you guys that do not know, we are every week we do our show. We are simultaneously going live on other platforms. So if you do not catch us on Facebook, we do have people who catch us on Twitter. So shout out to our Twitter viewers, and we do have some people who also check us out on our YouTube channel. So thank you as well for checking us out on our YouTube channel. With that being said, Roz, do you have any last words?
I do. Tomorrow starts the Ahmaud Arbery case in Georgia. The black boy that was running got shot by the
Mhm.
two men, and then the third man that actually filmed it. And if you're not keeping up with the what's this? God, I had his name. Rittenhouse trial. Watch that also. It's a lot of stuff that's going on in both of these cases that we need to watch and support. Um, for both of them, especially Ahmad, because I think this case is really going to unfold a lot of corruption in that particular city justice department because they are now charging the district attorney with corruption also because she sat on this information when she had it in her possession for a long time. So I'm kind of stoked to see how that is going to turn out. And also, we had elections yesterday on a lot of stuff. Um, look in your county, look in your states to see what bills were passed and how those things are going to affect you. I know we don't always get into elections, and I don't tell people to vote, not vote, but at least know what's going on in
Mm-hmm.
your city because it's a lot of stuff out there that could affect you, and you just don't know because you're just not that person to pay attention to politics. But from a person who didn't pay attention to politics for a long time, you should. You should know about the stuff that are
Right.
being passed in your city, in your state, in your county, and who your elected officials are, and look at their backgrounds. That's all I have to say about it. It's not my TED talk or my soapbox. Um, but just be mindful of the stuff that's going on around you before it's too late.
All right. With that being said, thank everybody for tuning in to this week's Petty Crew radio show. And until next week, we will talk to you later.